What if I told you that one of the world's toughest sporting events was created simply to sell papers? Welcome to the incredible story of the Tour de France. The Tour de France was born in 1903, but its origins actually began with a fierce newspaper rivalry. At the turn of the 20th century, France was experiencing a cycling boom. Bicycle racing had become enormously popular, and newspapers competed intensely for readers. One newspaper in particular, L'Auto, was struggling against its rival, Le Vélo. In November 1902, during a meeting at the offices of L'Auto in Paris, journalist Gilles Lefebvre proposed an audacious idea. Why don't we organize a bicycle race around the whole of France? The newspaper's editor, Henri Desgranges, immediately recognized the potential. It was a radical concept. No sporting event of such length and difficulty had ever been attempted. The idea was simple. Create a race so spectacular that everyone in France would want to read about it. And it worked. On July the 1st, 1903, the very first Tour de France started outside the Café au Réveil Matin in Montgeron, near Paris. Only 60 riders lined up at the start. There were just 6 stages, but these stages were colossal. The first stage from Paris to Lyon covered almost 470 kilometers. Many riders cycled through the night on rough, unpaved roads illuminated only by lanterns and moonlight. There were no support cars, no radios, and no sophisticated equipment. The cyclists had to eat, repair their bicycles, and navigate largely by themselves. After nearly 3 weeks of racing, Maurice Garin, a chimney sweep originally from Italy who had emigrated to France, won the race. The tour was an immediate success. Sales of L'Auto skyrocketed from approximately 25,000 copies to over 65,000 copies per day. A legend had been born. Monsieur Garin, comment s'est passée la course? Terrible mais magnifique. Allez-vous revenir l'année prochaine? Si mes jambes survivent. The early tours were incredibly brutal. Cyclists sometimes rode more than 400 kilometers in a single stage. Roads were often muddy, dusty, or covered with stones. Some competitors resorted to extraordinary methods to survive. Unfortunately, the race was also plagued by cheating. During the 1904 Tour de France, several riders were accused of taking trains, receiving illegal assistance, and even being pushed by spectators. The controversy became so serious that the organizers nearly cancelled the race forever. Eventually, the top 4 finishers, including the apparent winner, Maurice Garin, were disqualified. Henri Desgranges famously declared that the Tour had come close to dying. Instead, the organizers strengthened the rules and transformed the race. Beginning in 1910, the Tour ventured into the Pyrenees for the very first time. Many riders thought the organizers had gone mad. One exhausted cyclist reportedly shouted, "Vous êtes des assassins. You are murderers." 2 years later, in 1911, the Alps were added to the route, creating the mountain battles that still define the Tour today. These legendary climbs transformed ordinary athletes into national heroes. The Tour de France has mirrored the history of modern France. The race was suspended during the First World War from 1915 to 1918. Many former riders never returned, having lost their lives on the battlefield. When the Tour resumed in 1919, France was still recovering from immense destruction. To symbolize leadership and help spectators identify the race leaders, organizers introduced what would become the race's most iconic symbol, the yellow jersey. Eugène Christophe became the first rider ever to wear the Maillot Jaune. The tour was interrupted once again during the Second World War from 1940 until 1946. When it returned in 1947, it quickly became a symbol of hope, reconstruction, and national unity. Throughout the decades, the tour has reflected broader social changes in French society. Technological advances transformed bicycles from heavy steel machines into ultra-light engineering marvels. Television brought the race into millions of homes. International riders increasingly challenged French dominance, turning the Tour into a truly global event. Today, the Tour de France is watched in more than 190 countries and remains one of the most prestigious sporting events on earth. Perhaps the most famous symbol is the Maillot Jaune, or yellow jersey. It is worn by the overall race leader. Why yellow? Because Lotto, the newspaper that created the Tour, was printed on yellow paper. Other famous jerseys include the green jersey for the best sprinter, the white jersey for the best young rider, and the polka dot jersey for the king of the mountains. Another beloved tradition is the caravane publicitaire. Long before the cyclists arrive, a colorful parade of sponsor vehicles passes by. Since 1930, sponsors have thrown souvenirs, sweets, hats, and gifts to spectators. For many families, the caravan is almost as exciting as the race itself. Traditionally, the Tour concludes in Paris on the famous Champs-Élysées. Winning on this iconic avenue is considered one of cycling's greatest honors. Combien de kilomètres reste-t-il jusqu'au sommet? Seulement 3 kilomètres. 3 kilomètres, on dirait 30. The Tour de France has produced some of the most extraordinary stories in sporting history. Over more than a century, the race has seen heroes, villains, moments of triumph, and scenes so unbelievable that they almost sound fictional. The early editions of the Tour were almost lawless. Several riders secretly took trains during stages, others rode in cars or accepted illegal assistance. The scandal of 1904 nearly destroyed the race. Thankfully, stricter rules ensured its survival. One of the most famous stories occurred in 1913. French cyclist Eugène Christophe was leading the race when his bicycle fork suddenly broke on the Col du Tourmalet. Outside assistance was forbidden. Christophe carried his bicycle for nearly 14 kilometers to a village blacksmith. For hours, he personally repaired the bicycle while officials watched carefully. Although he lost the race, he became a national hero. The blacksmith's workshop still exists today. The yellow jersey itself has its own fascinating story. When it was introduced in 1919, some riders disliked it. Eugène Christophe joked that spectators compared him to a canary because of its bright yellow color. Today, it has become one of the most coveted prizes in sport. Nutrition during the early tours was also very different. Many riders believed alcohol provided energy. Cyclists sometimes drank wine, beer, champagne, or even brandy during races. In 1924, journalist Albert Londres famously described exhausted cyclists as les forçats de la route, or convicts of the road. The expression perfectly captured the immense suffering endured by riders. One of cycling's most iconic images shows Italian rivals Fausto Coppi and Gino Bartali sharing a water bottle during the 1952 Tour. The photograph has become a timeless symbol of sportsmanship. Belgian champion Eddy Merckx earned the nickname the Cannibal because he wanted to win absolutely everything. Mountain stages, sprint stages, time trials, general classifications. If there was a prize, Merckx wanted it. Many still consider him the greatest cyclist of all time. Not all tour stories are joyful. In 1967, British cyclist Tom Simpson tragically died while climbing Mont Ventoux under extreme heat. A memorial now stands on the mountain, and many cyclists stop there to pay tribute. Another unforgettable moment came in 1989. American Greg LeMond and Frenchman Laurent Fignon fought one of the closest battles in sporting history. After more than 3 weeks of racing, the entire tour was decided by only 8 seconds. It remains the closest finish in Tour de France history. Mon vélo est cassé. Que dois-je faire? Répare-le toi-même. Nous sommes au Tour de France. Mais je suis fatigué. Alors pédale encore plus fort. Qui va gagner aujourd'hui? Peut-être le maillot jaune. Ou peut-être un coureur français. On verra bien à l'arrivée. Le rêve de Lucas. Lucas adore le cyclisme. Chaque mois de juillet, il regarde le Tour de France avec son grand-père. Un jour, son grand-père lui demande « Tu veux participer au Tour un jour ?» Lucas répond « Oui, c'est mon rêve. » Tous les matins, Lucas fait du vélo dans son village. Il monte les collines, même quand il est fatigué. En été, il participe à une petite course locale. Avant le départ, il est très nerveux. Sa mère lui dit « Amuse-toi et fais de ton mieux. » Lucas termine 3e. Il est très heureux. Il dit « Un jour, je porterai peut-être le maillot jaune. » If you enjoyed this journey through the history and traditions of the Tour de France, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell. Tell us in the comments which Tour de France moment, rider, or legendary climb fascinates you the most. À bientôt et bon vélo!